Renee, your spiritual clinical counselor and sexual self awareness coach. And what are we doing? Bringing you another hot episode of From Shadow to Sacred, It's Sex in the Raw, of course. And I am so excited to bring you this brilliant, dynamic woman to the microphone, Miss Shaneequa Cannon, the brand storyteller, master queen, goddess, whatever she want to give herself a title of, because that is her. Please bring yourself to the microphone and tell the people a little bit more. Thank you.
Hey, Yolinda. Now that
Hey,
was an
boo.
amazing intro. I really appreciate it. I think you pretty much covered it all. The master, queen, coach, storyteller. It's all of that. And so I'm basically a person who helps guide people into taking their stories and flipping them into their superpowers.
Mm.
We deal with shame, and I think that's like a really good place to talk about that is the things that we hold as shameful, or even, not to use so strong a word, but just as that thing we see as our weakness, often is where our superpower lies. And that is the key to storytelling, is flipping that weakness into your strength so
Mm.
that people understand that you reflect them and you also show them the way to be better.
Wow, I love that. I feel all got all the little tinglies in my body. That was beautiful. So,
Thank you.
yes, you and I have had plenty of conversations just off the microphone, behind the scenes, just doing us. And one thing we talked about was this idea of detachment when it comes to our sexual selves and what does that look like. So, just give us a little bit more about your thoughts on what that means for you.
Um, I loved when you brought that up in conversation. It was on that Activate Vision
Mm-hmm.
call where I first heard you speak of it. And then of course we took it off of that. I I've always felt detached. Well, actually, let me retract that because I haven't always felt detached.
Mm-hmm.
As we talked about on that call, and now is this was a result of trauma. So, in the act of in the act of being raped, the thing I remember most is separating from my body.
Mm.
So I focused on the sound of the bird chirping outside of the window instead of what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I haven't found my way back to my body, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I haven't found my way back. And that happened when I was 16. I'm 41 and a half now, you know? So um, I can't say that I've gotten better,
Mm-hmm.
truthfully, because then you become a mom and then you become a partner, and there's a million thousand things running through your brain. Did I lock the door? Did I wash the dishes? What we gonna do? And so it just made it worse.
Mm.
And so I would have to talk to myself, like, come on, come back into this, which of course took me out of it. And so it just takes me longer to find complete satisfaction. So I've gotten to a place where I'm just okay with doing that thing. I'm okay with having sex because to me, it feels good. I'm just not going to expect to explode from it.
Mm.
Um, and even getting to that place was a journey in itself. So the detachment, it's annoying for sure, because I want to have those mind blowing experiences that I hear about other people having.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's almost to the point where I've accepted that might not be me. I mean, I'm cerebral anyway on top of that. So it's just this
Yes.
weight of stuff. Yeah.
Mm. There's a couple of different ways we would go with that. So the idea of being detached, like some people feel like, oh well, you don't have sex if you are detached from your sexual self. It's like, no, you can have sex and
Mm,
be
I have
completely,
that.
yeah, exactly. It's like it doesn't mean you don't have sex. It's just that you're not in the moment when having it, right? And you said you got to the place
Yep.
where you can have sex and enjoy it, but you don't explode from it. So how did you get to that point? You said that was a journey within itself.
Well, listen, just my whole sexual journey has been one of those. I don't feel like I'm there yet for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be very transparent on that part. I don't feel there yet
Mm-hmm.
in who I want or know myself to be, so to speak, or
Mm-hmm.
not know, but feel myself to possibly be. I think I shared with you the other day that since I was a kid, I wanted to be a dominatrix. I thought they were so amazing. They're
Mhm.
so powerful. And I would love to be able to harness that power
Mhm.
in my sexual being, in who I
Mhm.
am. But as far as like the journey itself is from the time that I was 16 until 31,
Mhm.
I questioned myself. I mean, I
Mhm.
did the trauma thing
Mhm.
that happens sometimes for some people after rape, is I started going, well, I'm going to initiate it because I'm going to say who, I'm going to say where, I'm going to say when.
Mhm.
And so I would become the initiator. And I thought I was a nymphomaniac. I'm like, I
Mhm.
gotta have it all the time. Like it was almost a drug, like an itch of like, I gotta have it, to the point where, and I'm being very transparent
Yeah.
because I think it helps people
Mhm.
to stop holding these things in, to the point where like I would get off of work
Mhm.
and cruise the streets
Mhm.
looking for my next victim,
Mm.
you know, and willing victim. Let me add
Yeah.
that caveat to it. I'll be like, hey, you want to have sex? And they would be
Mhm.
like, what? Yeah. And I would almost do like the pretty woman thing. Choose, choose your prophylactic, you know, because I was safe with it. But so in that journey of trying to take power of it, of trying to be in ownership of my body. And then the next thing I tried was starving myself of sex. So I would go celibate because I don't like what I'm attracting. I don't like what I'm doing. And
Mhm.
so I would have these periods of 1 year, 2 years celibacy, trying to reset,
Mhm.
if that makes
Mhm.
sense, like trying to reset myself. Um, and then finally, on my last celibacy of 5 years, I actually went 5 years that time. And, at the worst time of your life, I'm in my 20s. I should be having a good time and, exploring relationships and what all that means. But at 26, I went celibate for 5 years.
Mm.
And, or maybe I was 25. But during that time, though, I started questioning myself sexually
Mhm.
because I couldn't find any pleasure in it. I would do it because, again, that power thing, but I wasn't finding any pleasure.
Mm.
I mean, I was having sex with my shirt on. Like
Mm.
there wasn't much I was doing when it come down to sex, when it came down to sex. So, and then on top of that, I was attracting a lot of married men. So I was trying to reset that because, you know, they won't approach you if you weren't attracting them. And I don't mean because I look good. I meant like mentally, energetically, etc. So I would do those resets. But in that time, I was like, okay, do I like women maybe? Because I do find women attractive. I
Mhm.
love the human body, and I don't like penises. It's weird. I just don't. I think they look funny. I'm like, God made a mistake. I think he forgot. Oh shoot, I forgot something. And then he stuck it out. I don't know. That's my humor about it. Because I'm like, you have this beautiful male body. And then it's like, eh. But anyway.
That's
I'm
so
sorry, I didn't mean to go there. But so I did question myself sexually. I was like, okay, do I like women and
Mhm.
only women? And I was like, no, that doesn't feel like it.
Mhm.
And so I started researching and I found this thing called bi curious. And I was like, okay, what's that?
Mhm.
And then so I said, try that on. And I was like, I'm bisexual. Nope, that's not
Mhm.
it either. Like it wasn't it. And then I settled on, well, I'm broken.
Mm.
That's what it is. I'm broken. And then when I met this guy that I'm currently with, going on 10 years now, I wasn't broken. I was like, oh, he was more concerned with me finding pleasure
Yes.
before he achieved his own.
Mm.
And the other thing too, he was open to my questions.
Mm.
So while I felt childish at 31 asking
Mhm.
these questions, I mean, I had two kids. You would assume that I, I had some knowledge here. Um, but I would ask him, I was like, so what does that feel like? Or what do you like? Or he would start asking me, so how would that feel? And I'm like, well, can I be honest? And I would start talking about the things. And then with him, I ended up having my first orgasm.
Mm.
And I was like, yo, this is what people talk about. This is what people talk about. It's like, is this
Um,
supposed to be happening? What are you doing? They don't do this in movies because I
mm,
watched a whole lot of those. So it would be, and that's where I think porn isn't too helpful
yeah, not at
because
all.
it's the fantasy, it's not the truth. And if it is, they just happen to get those women, those 30% women, who can achieve at different things. And the other thing I realized too, talking in that, is that I actually don't like watching straight porn simply because it's so violent.
Mm,
And if you think about the words we use when we're talking about male female interaction,
mhm,
it's beat that up, lay the
mhm,
pipe, smash. They're all very, very violent
mm,
and not empowering type of words.
yeah.
So, and that's what partially led me to questioning my sexuality because I'm like, I don't enjoy them, you
Mhm,
know. But my favorite part, I'm really telling secrets here. My favorite part of any of those would be when she was able to moan and it sounded real,
mm,
not that fake stuff. And I'm like, okay, I love that part. It's
mhm. Like
weird.
she's
Like,
into it, right?
yeah, or like he did something and it just caught her, and it was just that moan of realness, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of just real primitive oneness of herself, or of what they were doing. And it just, I don't know, it's something very authentic about it, and I love that. And it was like, I need to get there,
Mm-hmm.
you know not where I want to make him feel good, but where, oh God, I'm feeling good,
Yes.
you know yeah.
I like that switch, that
That's a little bit all
empowerment
over the
piece.
place.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I like it. I like it. So going back to your sexual identity, do you still feel like you're in this broken space, or are you beginning to align with something that identifies you more?
um I'm still not totally there, but that has to do with me and my self-conscious body life right now.
Okay.
Um, so that part is happening. The alignment is also happening because, like I said, we've been together almost 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and only now the hand to inch up like towards the neck, or he'll do it to me, and I'm just like, I like this, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I'm starting to go, I like that, do that,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm starting to be a little bit more vocal
Good.
because my story is all about having lost my voice
Mm-hmm.
after the rape thing happened, and so I'm still on a journey towards finding my own voice as I help other people find theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, I think that's why that mom thing was such a thing for me, because it was her voice.
Yes.
And so, like, that's starting to happen. Is I'll tell him what I want him to do, and honestly, he's been waiting for that. Truthfully, because he really is into pleasing. Um, and whereas I'm like, listen, I'm done. Even though I hadn't achieved, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that was great. Hurry up, it's your turn. Get it. And for me, that would be the pleasure. Would
Yes.
be making him, because I've read about men faking it too, and I was like, how the
Mm-hmm.
heck do y'all fake it? Don't stuff come out?
Mm-hmm.
But so it would be like almost a medal for me, for
Mm-hmm.
him to come to,
Mm-hmm.
or even when he doesn't expect it, I'm like, yes, I did my job.
Good job, girl. Good job.
They're like a high five for real. And he'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, next time. But yeah, and those are my rewards, and he didn't see it. But so it's like he's trying to please me, and I'm like, man, I want my victory. Give it to me. Like, I love it. But now, because of his patience and doing that, and I'm starting to find what I like. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
think so.
I'm loving your self awareness. I'm loving this journey of you questioning, right? And asking yourself, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Why this? Why that? And that's a lot of the healing process and the healing journey, So, as you are still on your healing journey, what's some words you would give to someone else who might be at the beginning of their process, or, might be where you are?
One of the things I had to work through first, believe it or not, was religion.
Mm,
Uh, you know, Growing up in old Baptist churches, I heard a lot about, I won't even say abstinence, but all the submission things of
Mm-hmm.
women to men, and then also how homosexuals were against the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, almost anything that dealt with sex
Mm-hmm.
outside of bringing a child forth was sinful, was not to be explored, not to be shared, not to be discussed. Um, and so that was definitely one of those things that I had to start dismantling for myself. Like, who is God for me,
Yes.
as opposed to who has God been taught to be?
Mm.
And so I looked at my own experiences of not sexually, but just my experiences with God, what that looked like for me. And also understanding how we are taught these conflicting things inside of like the Bible or church or what have you. So if you're telling me homosexuals are evil and an abomination, but then you're telling me that God made people in his eyes and he loves everybody, I'm like, those two don't mesh.
Yes.
And one of the things that actually helped me start that journey
Mm-hmm.
was working with children
Hmm.
in a preschool.
Hmm.
And there was a 5-year-old who obviously knew his sexuality, but he
Hmm.
didn't know he knew. Like it was obviously him. He was into all the girl things, quote unquote. He just was very feminine of a young man. And I went, God doesn't hate him.
Hmm.
And he's definitely not choosing this.
Hmm.
He just is.
Yes.
And so then I'm wrestling with it because I'm like, what's the science behind that? So for me, it's question everything.
Hmm.
Question everything. Question what you were taught. Question what you believe. Question why you can't change your thoughts or beliefs. Because for me, when I'm going, what's the science behind it? If scientifically or biologically we are here to reproduce,
Mm-hmm.
then why are there people who will reject the opposite?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's their nature. Like, that's just them. So why are there dogs or birds or whatever, going to the animal world as opposed to the human animal world, like seeking outside of there? I'm like, there just are differences.
Mm-hmm.
And why there are differences, who knows? Like, that's just a whole thing. Is it a rerouting? Is it a genetic? Is it whatever it is? I don't know. Is it past lives? Like, that's another thing that I heard possibly is if you had a past life as a male, you might be carrying that over into this one, and I thought that was really interesting. But the bottom line is, I don't know enough to make judgments about other people.
Mm-hmm.
I only know enough to start learning myself,
Mm-hmm.
not judging myself, because that's where um, I was strongly um, in the wrong, was in the judging of myself, judging of my choices, judging, feeling the shame. When it should not be a shame-filled journey. It should be a grace-filled journey. Like, find your path. Like, you hear about these people who are finding out that they are maybe not bisexual, but actually lesbian when they're in their 50s.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know what happened. I just went, no, if you had paid attention to you and gave yourself grace and realized your triggers, like what catches your eye really, or you know then you might have been a little bit more open. But I think we have a better time too. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's also in the play. Is I won't say the world's more open, but it's a whole lot less closed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love
So that's basically it, is journey with grace and be okay to pivot and change. I've heard of people going for lesbian relationships and realizing, no, I'm just hurt from here.
it.
And
Mm-hmm.
I can find something over, not that I can find something, but something else came here that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
So I also think stop labeling yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. And I don't mean in non-binary and those, because those are labels too. I think just stop labeling.
Yes. Allowing yourself to just be, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So as we close out, when you think about your relationship with self now, your sexual self, sensual self, and just being, how has that transformed?
I can have sex with a light on.
I mean, that's big. What?
That's huge because it doesn't, I don't stop thinking about my fupa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't let it stop me
Yes.
from enjoying the time with my partner. Um, and you know, like I said, I'm coming out of my shell
Mhm.
and I'm starting to vocalize, which has been a huge journey in itself. And I'm starting to figure out what I like and to ask for not permission, but it's something that you always say is laying the boundaries. Can we
Mm.
do this? Will are you okay with this? Or what's well, we don't have safe words yet because we haven't gone there yet.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, I've stopped pretending to sleep.
Mm. Hmm. I know that journey. So the idea of intention and consent, like let's talk about what we want to try. We on the
Mhm.
same page, and let's see what it do.
Yeah,
I love it. I
yeah.
love it. She said with the lights on, she ain't pretending to be asleep. He got to try and ease the panties off with her. She lift her leg up.
Listen, you know them codes we do, like go to bed without the panties and scoot back.
All her little tricks.
Uh, yeah, man. And the other thing on that too is I don't have to have a shirt on. Like
Mm,
I said, like that was my whole journey um until him. And I don't think he even understands how big that was.
I love it. Where can the people find you, ma'am? Where can we find
Man,
you?
you can just go to Shaneequa.com.
Okay.
And so if you go to Shaneequa.com, that's my website. But you can find me on, oh man, I know they say brand yourself the same across every platform, but that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at Shaneequa Cannon on IG
Mm-hmm.
and the Write Diva on Twitter.
Got you.
I'm also on the Write Diva on IG too. I have 2 pages. So either
Okay.
way, you can find me.
Well, we're gonna make sure they got all the links and all the things so that they can get to you without any issues or problems. But this has been amazing. I love your authenticity. I love that you were vulnerable and open. Thank you so much for sharing space and wisdom with us.
Thank you for creating space, especially for people who look like me.
Yes. You know, I'm gonna have to have you back on because it's just I love talking to you, and it's just I love the energy in your
I
life.
know. I'm gonna take that invite, fellow
Thank
projector.
you. Okay, love. So until next time, this has been another episode of From Shadow to Sacred with Miss Shaneequa Cannon. We gonna see y'all on the flip. Bye for now.